It was a pretty normal Friday night for me. I lived alone in a really small home in the suburbs, but worked an hour away in the city. Finally reaching the weekend, I was ready to do absolutely nothing tonight and just watch YouTube, game, and maybe sleep in. I took a quick shower after getting home, then fired up the PlayStation and relaxed and gamed for a few hours. I even cracked open a few beers. The night was going pretty well, and I thought the only thing that could make it perfect was to get some pizza delivered. I ordered from a local pizza shop, just using their app to place the order with, then laid back on the couch and watched YouTube on the TV while I waited. After 45 minutes though, I realized it'd been a while since I'd placed the order and hadn't gotten any text that they were on the way. I pulled my phone out and checked the app. It said there was a delay. I don't remember the exact message, but it was very generic, basically saying, "Sorry for the delay, your order will be on the way soon." It was no big deal. I was trying to stay up late anyway. Although I felt my eyes getting heavy. Maybe I was more tired than I thought. Over the next 15 minutes, with YouTube playing in the background, I slowly dozed off. I woke up suddenly to the doorbell ringing multiple times. I shot up from the couch, thinking, oh shit, the pizza delivery. I had no idea how long I was passed out for, or how long the delivery guy had been waiting on me. I hurried over to the door and opened it. I was still really groggy, and having the couple of beers earlier didn't help at all. There was a man standing on my porch. "Sorry, I hope you weren't waiting long. How much do I owe you?" I said tiredly. The guy looked a little confused. I clarified. "For the pizzas, how much do I owe you?" It was as the words came out of my mouth that I realized this guy wasn't even holding any pizza boxes or anything at all. No uniform either. He had dark jeans and a gray hoodie flipped over his head, and hands stuffed into his pockets. The guy didn't answer for an awkward amount of time, like he was still thinking about what I said. But then he smiled and said not to worry, the pizzas were still on the way. He stopped talking after that, just looking at me as if that were a normal answer. Even me being a little drunk and really tired, I knew that was a weird response. Why would he be here if it were still on the way? But I just said okay, and after another couple seconds of awkward silence, I closed the door. I rubbed my face and tried to regain my thoughts. Why was that interaction so strange? I was aware that I wasn't in the right mind, but unfortunately that made me think that maybe it wasn't as off as I was making it out to be. I put on a new video, then sat down and continued watching, only for me to fall asleep once again. This time I woke up to a clicking sound. I didn't know what it actually was though. However, I knew I'd only drifted off for a few minutes because the video was still running. I sat up again and waited for a doorbell or a knock or something, but there wasn't. I still didn't know what that click sound was, but it was then that I finally remembered to check the app for any updates on the order. I opened my phone, but didn't even get past the lock screen without being confused. It was 4 a.m. I placed the order at 11, and the pizza shop was only open until 1 a.m. I quickly checked the app, seeing the order was delayed for an hour before getting cancelled by the shop. But then who was just at my door? I got up from the couch and walked through the hallway to the front door, checking out the peephole and seeing no one out there. I reached down to unlock and open the door, only to see it was already unlocked. I must have forgotten to lock it when I answered the door just a few minutes ago, because I was so out of it. I opened the door and saw nothing, just an empty and quiet neighborhood. I was way too tired and tipsy to be dealing with whatever was happening. Without getting any answers, I closed the door and instantly stopped dead in my tracks. That sound, the door clicking into the doorway, It was exactly what I heard that woke me up. I felt my face go pale. In a split second, I replayed the whole interaction with the guy, realizing my mistake and that he was just going along with being the pizza delivery guy after I'd already mentioned it. What intentions could he possibly have for him to lie about that? I looked back into the dark and quiet home. Everything in me told me to leave. I quietly walked back down the hallway, trying to get my phone from the couch. Just when I did, I heard something move in the other room. I panicked, grabbing my phone and running for the front door. I ran out of the house and down to the end of the block, then dialed 911. The cops arrived pretty quick, just a few minutes after I called, but it still wasn't fast enough. The guy was long gone. I gave them every single detail I could think of, exactly what he looked like, what he said, and everything, but so far that's all we got. And unless something else happens, it's likely where it'll be left at. I think over that night all the time, trying to figure out what really happened, but I don't know. It seems like the order being cancelled was just a really bad coincidence. The biggest question is why this random guy was outside my house, ringing the doorbell at 4 a.m. to begin with. What was he initially intending? My guess is that he was scouting for empty houses, or easy targets to either rob or worse. When I answered the door, he probably could tell I was drunk, tired, and not in the right headspace, so he figured he could take advantage of that. I'm even willing to bet he waited outside the door and listened for whether or not I locked it. Then he just waited a few minutes for me to go back to sleep. Had I not woken up or realized the situation I was in, that night could have gone much differently and likely would not have ended well for me.